Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma. We're going to go live downtown to San Diego Police Headquarters for the latest on the attacks on the homeless this week.
The items are evidence of a crime. Let me expand on that. I want to be very careful with this. We have probable cause right now to arrest Mr. Padgett for these crimes. With that said, we have a lot of work still to be done.
How do you spell his last name?
Padgett. I'll get that at the end. So again, let me start over and make sure this is very clear. As I said, we have probable cause to arrest Mr. Padgett as we speak. With that said, we still have a lot of work to be done. We still have witnesses that we need to interview and locate. We still have evidence that needs to be processed in the crime lab. And this all takes time. And we'll be doing that around the clock. This arrest comes with our main priority of protecting the public. And as we've always said in this investigation, public safety is our #1 priority. And we are doing this to prevent a possible another case. Be patient with us as we move forward in this investigation. We have all hands still in. You will still see tonight a full contingency of our plan that you saw in the coming days, you saw last night, and you will continue to see. We will have extra officers out tonight, patrolling, still talking, still looking for witnesses, and still out there. Questions?
Is he homeless?
That's still to be determined. Again, we're still very much at the very early stages of this investigation.
Is he a San Diego native, or is he from originally from somewhere else?
He was born in Chula Vista. I cannot go into his criminal history at this time.
Did you find him in Chula Vista?
Yes, we did.
What time was he arrested?
I'll get into that.
Was he arrested by Chula Vista PD?
I'll get into that. Hold on one, please. He was arrested right around 10 o'clock this morning by members of the San Diego Police Department in the area of Broadway and 8th Street in Chula Vista.
Was he in that homeless camp?
I'm not going to go into, we did search some camps today. I know some of the media did see us in Chula Vista at some camps. You got to remember, and I applaud you folks for doing this. From day one, we've been asking for the public's assistance, and with your help, we've been getting that out. So as we continue to get information, as we did in this case, we developed information from information being derived from this getting out to the public. We follow up on it, and that's why we come to the conclusion that we have probable cause to arrest Mr. Padgett today for these crimes, and we move forward with that arrest.
Captain, when you say there's still a lot of work to be done, you're saying it's not really a slam dunk.
I'm just saying we're still at the very early stages of this investigation.
Is there anything to be made of the fact that Chief Zimmerman is not here?
No, nothing to be
What is
made
he
of.
being arrested for? Is it all 4 crimes? And are there any other suspects?
We don't believe there's other suspects. Again, I can't stress enough the probable cause. I know I'm being a little bit vague, but I have to be right now. As I've previously stated before all of you, that I have to keep information privileged. I still believe there's other witnesses out there that might now feel compelled to come forward and give us their story or give us some information to help continue to develop this case against Mr. Padgett.
What is responsible for all 4 crimes? All 4 crimes?
I'm sorry, I cannot.
Just to follow up, you believe he's responsible for all 4?
He will be arrested for these 4 cases, yes.
Murder, or do you know what?
He'll be charged with several counts of murder, several counts of attempt murder.
Was the man seen in the surveillance photos? Was that Anthony Padgett?
Again, that's our belief, yes.
Are you able to say anything else about
I'm not going to go into his arrest other than he was arrested by members of the San Diego Police Department.
Now that you have somebody in custody, are you able to say anything more about the kinds of injuries that the victims have suffered?
No, I still believe there's other witnesses. I have to protect that information as we have witnesses come forward. We have served several search warrants. I will not go into where those search warrants were served, but we did serve several search warrants, and I will not go into motive at this time.
Any priors? Does he have any priors?
He has not been booked. He will be booked here shortly, and I will not go into his statement.
Captain, could you talk about the hours that were put in? No offense, sir, but you look like you've really... I mean, you obviously have been sleeping very little, you and your men.
You know, all I'll say is this, and we've been saying this all along. We take every single murder serious. When you have a series of murders, we take that serious. And as we've been saying all along, it's all hands in. We've been working this around the clock. And I really give credit to the detectives, sergeants, and lieutenants, not only of the homicide unit, but of patrol and all of our specialized units, our communications, and our crime lab. We've all been working around the clock. That's how important this case is, and that's why public safety is our top priority. We aim to make sure this is a safe city, and we take this serious, and that's why you see us.
Are you hoping homeless feel a little bit more safe tonight?
That's one of the other reasons we're going to be out. But with that said, we also know that there's still attacks that we need to take still, as I've been saying, we're going to still consider those other attacks that have been happening over the past few weeks. We need to determine if Mr. Padgett is involved or if we either still have another suspect out there attacking the homeless population.
And you've been listening to a live press conference at San Diego Police Headquarters downtown, where authorities have announced the arrest of a suspect in this week's savage attacks on 4 homeless men that left 2 of them dead and 2 badly injured. You heard San Diego Police Captain David Nislight say the suspect's name is a man by the name of Anthony Padgett. He was arrested at 10 a.m. this morning in Chula Vista by San Diego police officers. They say he was born in Chula Vista. Police would not speak to what the suspect's motive may have been. Search warrants have been issued in the case. Police say that they have a lot more work to do. They have several more witnesses to locate and interview. We will bring you more details on the air and online at kpbs.org. Getting back to our other news, President Barack Obama is reacting today to a second deadly shooting of a black man by police in as many days. The latest shooting was in Minnesota and happened just a day after another black man was killed by police during an arrest in Louisiana. Both incidents were caught on cell phones and have been circulated widely on social media. Obama spoke this afternoon from Warsaw. He says this is not just a black issue.
When incidents like this occur, there's a big chunk of our fellow citizenry that feels as if, because of the color of their skin, they are not being treated the same. And that hurts. And that should trouble all of us.
During his comments today, Obama said he wanted to put the shooting into context to help people understand why this is such an emotional issue by citing some statistics. He said African Americans are 30% more likely to be pulled over than whites, 3 times more likely to be searched once they are pulled over, and 2 times more likely to be shot by police than whites. Philando Castile was shot several times as he sat in his car last night in a St. Paul suburb after he was pulled over by police. Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, was with him in the car and broadcast the aftermath of the shooting on Facebook. She says the police pulled them over for a broken taillight, and Castile was reaching for his ID as requested when he was shot.
Not 1 shot, not 2 shots, not 3 shots, not 4 shots, but 5 shots for no reason. How can one man put his hands in the air and reach for identification at the same time?
Reynolds says her boyfriend told the officer he was armed before he was shot, In Baton Rouge, internal affairs documents released today show the officers involved in the shooting of Alton Sterling had 4 previous use of force complaints lodged against them and were cleared in all of them. The documents were released a day after the Justice Department opened a civil rights investigation into the shooting of Sterling, who was killed by police during an altercation outside of a convenience store where he was selling CDs. And again, frustration stemming from the fatal shootings of 2 black men by police officers in Minnesota and Louisiana this week is spreading across the internet. One voice of indignation and outrage belongs to Cleveland police officer Nakia Jones, who is also African American. On a video, she spoke of taking guns away from teenagers and how wrenching it was to tell a mom her children wouldn't be coming home. But she said what pained her the most was people who dishonor their oath to serve and protect.
And God, please forgive me, and you can delete me if you're getting mad at me. If you are white and you working in a black community and you are racist, you need to be ashamed of yourself. You stood up there and took an oath. If this is not where you want to work at, then you need to take your behind somewhere else. I decided to work in the African American community because I'm African American and I wanted to make a difference.
Jones' video has gotten 3.6 million views in 24 hours. We'll continue to follow these stories on the officer-involved shootings on air at KPBS Radio and online at kpbs.org. The Department of Veterans Affairs says that an average of 20 veterans a day committed suicide in 2014. The latest data shows that even though large numbers of veterans have returned from the stresses of war in the Middle East, older veterans continue to bear a heavy burden. About 2/3 of all veterans committing suicide were 50 and over. The suicide rate among female veterans was more than twice that for female civilians. California's death penalty debate is headed to the November ballot. An initiative supporting the death penalty gained enough signatures last week to join an opposing measure on the ballot. One of the initiatives seeks to rid the state of its death penalty, while the other calls for keeping it and speeding up the process in which death row inmates are put to death.
We certainly don't want rights taken from the accused, but we don't want rights underserved to the victims either. The initiative that is on there, that is backed by the California District Attorney Association and law enforcement, our group, everybody, proposes more of a streamline, just like many other states have.
There are 743 inmates on California's death row. Voters rejected the idea of abolishing the death penalty by a narrow margin in 2012. The Scripps National Science Institute has won a 5-year, $120 million grant from the National Institutes of Health. From our North County Bureau, KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says the award will enable Scripps to play a key role in an unprecedented national study.
The new study is part of President Obama's Precision Medicine Initiative. The goal is to gather the medical history and genomic information of 1 million Americans and monitor their health in real time with smartphones and mobile apps. Dr. Eric Topol directs the Scripps Translational Science Institute. He says the study will break new ground.
Well, this is the most transformative, far-reaching, ambitious research endeavor in the history of the United States. That is, there's never been a medical research, a clinical research program at this scale.
Scripps will be responsible for enrolling 350,000 people in the program. Other research partners include the Mayo Clinic and the University of Arizona. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
30,000 freshmen have been offered places at UC San Diego for the fall semester. The university says that's about 3,800 more than last year. UCSD says the admitted class is more diverse. The admitted freshman class includes 58% more Mexican Americans and 46% more African Americans than last year. School officials say 16% more admission slots went to in-state students. The UC system has been criticized in recent years for relying on out-of-state students who pay higher tuition. A new low-income housing development will break ground in North Park next week. But this one is different. It's designed for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender seniors. It's the first project of its kind in San Diego. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it's meant to serve a community that's in serious need.
Hello.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
Hi, Andrew.
Good. Nice
Welcome.
to meet you.
Robert Bettinger is 87 years old and gay. He's showing me around his one-bedroom apartment on the top floor of a high-rise in Hillcrest. It's got a great view.
When it's not smoggy, I can see all these mountains very clearly.
Oh, wow.
And it's just a beautiful thing.
That's gorgeous.
It's amazing what Bettinger has been through over the years. He served in the army in Japan after World War II. He's an ordained Episcopal priest. He was married with kids before coming out in 1975 and moving to San Francisco. He's showing me some old pictures.
And believe it or not, this is me.
On the left there?
And that's my first partner who died of AIDS.
Bettinger actually had two partners die of AIDS, and that's a common experience in his generation. One of the biggest problems in the community is isolation and lack of family. He says that's why he's so excited about the new housing for LGBT seniors. He says they need to be around their peers.
Someone who's also experienced what you've experienced. The discrimination, the loss of jobs, the loss of home, family. There are just so many people who need this housing.
The apartments are being built by a nonprofit developer, Community Housing Works. The group's vice president of acquisitions, Dave Gatsky, shows me around the site.
So you'll see the entrance to the building will be here on the corner of Texas and Howard.
Right now, the site is a parking lot, an example of the blight that's kept this area from redeveloping. Gatsky says neighbors have been eager to see what the new housing does for the area.
Throughout the approval process, we received enthusiastic support, not only because we were providing a home for people who may be threatened with displacement, who have long been North Park residents and part of the LGBT community, but because North Park's very excited about seeing new high-quality development along the transit investments that the City of San Diego and MTS have made.
One of those transit investments is the nearby Mid-City Rapid Bus. The LGBT Community Center is 2 stops away on that route, and the center has committed to providing programming for the new residents.
So this is our fabulous auditorium.
Betty Owen comes to the center a couple times a week for yoga and other events. She helped out with the original study that assessed the needs of LGBT seniors in San Diego. Affordable, safe housing was a big one. The Great Recession hit Owen and others hard.
I mean, everything took a dump that I had. You know, my investment principal, I lost probably half of, which meant I lost at least half of my income, probably even more.
Owen says beyond the need for affordable housing, she wants a place where she can just fit in by being herself.
You know, I see a lot of these commercials for senior housing, and they all have a man and a woman, you know, enjoying each other, and, you know, they have parties and dances and things. I wouldn't fit there, you know? I mean, as gracious as these people might tend to be, I go to women's dances. I love women's dances, and I don't have to be dancing with any particular woman. But just to be on a dance floor that's full of women and just moving my body around is just so nurturing to me. And I would just feel really awkward, I think, doing that in a senior community that was primarily heterosexual people.
Bettinger agrees that LGBT seniors need a home to come together and support each other.
And I'm hoping that as we get to live in the North Park housing, that we will go in that direction, and that we will go with joy and speed, and that we will go with a lot of compassion.
As for whether he'll apply for one of the apartments, it depends on whether there's air conditioning, and if he leaves his current place, he'll sure miss that view. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Just a little bit.
Video journalist Chris Arciaga helped produce that story. California would get an additional $86 million from Volkswagen in a deal over civil penalties stemming from the company's emissions cheating scandal. State Attorney General Kamala Harris and Volkswagen asked a judge to approve the settlement today. The money would be on top of more than $1 billion that Volkswagen previously agreed to pay for investments in zero emissions technology and environmental mitigation in California. That figure was part of a $14.7 billion settlement announced last week that includes compensation for the majority of affected Volkswagen vehicle owners. FBI Director James Comey today steadfastly defended his decision not to recommend prosecution of Hillary Clinton for using a private email server while she was Secretary of State. Republican lawmakers repeatedly suggested Comey had let politics influence his recommendation during a hearing on Capitol Hill. But Comey called the Bureau's investigation apolitical and professional. And for the second time this week, the FBI Director said he saw evidence of great carelessness.
But I do not see evidence that is sufficient to establish that Secretary Clinton or those with whom she was corresponding both talked about classified information on email and knew when they did it, they were doing something that was against the law.
Meantime, the State Department is reopening their internal investigation into how Clinton and her aides handled classified information. The review began in January but was suspended in April so as not to interfere with the FBI's inquiry. The federal government gave tentative approval today for a scheduled commercial airline service to Havana. It's part of President Obama's effort to normalize ties with Cuba. 8 airlines are expected to begin round-trip service from 10 U.S. cities. Los Angeles is one of them. Service to the Cuban capital could begin as early as this fall. A UC San Diego grad was one of 3 astronauts to leave the Earth behind today. And blast off for the International Space Station. NASA astronaut Kate Rubins joined her Russian and Japanese counterparts on a Soyuz spacecraft that took off from Kazakhstan. They'll spend 2 days getting there and 4 months aboard the space station, which is orbiting about 250 miles above the planet. Clear skies and mild temperatures are on tap for San Diego. Stephanie Olmo has more in tonight's KPBS weather report.
Fairly tranquil weather conditions to be found throughout Southern California as we continue into the next couple of days into this weekend. We do have a weak trough in place, so some locations will be below the normal for this time of year. Now, San Diego, we're actually very typical for this time of year temperature-wise at about 74 degrees. And we'll see these temperatures remain like this as we head into the next couple of days. Of course, these are afternoon highs I'm talking about. Even as we head into the night, very comfortable as temperatures fall back to 65 degrees here in the city with increasing amounts of clouds. So we'll see the clouds increase as we take you into the overnight hours. Low clouds to start off the day, and then that is going to break for some sunshine for the afternoon. As we check things out here, the San Diego County overnight lows across this area in the 40s in Mount Laguna. How about that? Mainly clear skies, though. Borrego Springs 66, 51. Overnight low in Ramona under patches of clouds here and there. How about Alpine at 53? Oceanside keeping those temperatures in the low 60s, also keeping things pretty tranquil under partly cloudy skies. As we check out Friday's snapshot, expected to remain pretty seasonable throughout Southern California. In fact, much of the southwest region it's going to remain relatively dry, although we could see a couple of isolated storms here develop, especially right at that border here, Arizona and New Mexico, but not expected to make it into our area as we take you once again into the day on Friday, closing out the work week. Checking out what is a pattern expected to look like next week. Now, we'll have a little dip in the jet stream up toward the north. That's going to allow for a pocket of cool air. We will remain pretty seasonable in the southwest. Meanwhile, it's just going to be sweltering throughout much of the nation across the plain states and expanding its way across the eastern seaboard. Checking things out as we take a look at the extended forecast. First, taking things off around the coast. Actually, Friday, clouds breaking up here, just like what I've mentioned, even as we head into the weekend. Keeping things very comfortable along the coast, very typical for this time of year. Pleasant one Monday and into Tuesday, mainly sunny skies. Temperatures all across the board remaining in the low to middle 70s. How about further further inland. We'll see sunny skies Friday into the weekend. We'll see some low clouds to start off the day, but that sunshine breaking up as we head toward the afternoon hours. And temperatures here as well, not too bad, remaining in the 70s all week long into the weekend and even starting the new week. How about the mountains? Mainly sunny. Temperatures will be soaring into the 80s here as we head into the first part of the weekend. A little dip on Sunday, but hey, not too bad. 78 with a mix of sun and clouds on Monday and dry weather pattern for Tuesday as well. And your 5-day outlook for the desert now. Tranquil conditions as we head into the weekend, even Monday and Tuesday as well. But temperatures expected to soar into the triple digits. Stephanie Omo, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, our Fault Line series continues with a report from Estonia, the NATO nation most threatened by Russian aggression. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
Uber and the Metropolitan Transit System are working together to get San Diegans from A to B this month. Uber pool passengers who use the service to go to or from one of 20 bus or trolley stations through the end of Comic-Con International on July 24th will receive a one-time discount of $5. MTS officials say the deal with Uber aims to serve as a complement to public transportation. They also say this initiative has the potential to become a long-term partnership. USS Midway in San Diego was the backdrop for U.S. Olympic team officials to disclose the water polo roster today. The 13-player roster includes Tony Azevedo, who is headed to his 5th Olympics. Officials say this year the U.S. will take one of the youngest teams in the Olympic field. Most players are in their 20s. The team will play its opener on August 6th against Croatia. A turtle and a near-death experience. The National Marine Fisheries Service and SeaWorld have rescued a green sea turtle from South San Diego Bay. The male turtle was found extremely dehydrated and in a pond with hypersaline water. SeaWorld veterinarians have stabilized the turtle and hope to return it to the sea after rehabilitation. Recapping tonight's top stories, San Diego police say they have arrested a suspect in the series of attacks this week on homeless men around the city. They say his name is Anthony Padgett. He was arrested this morning in Chula Vista. Police Captain David Nislight says they are still in the early stages of the investigation. We will have more details for you as they become available. Check the website at kpbs.org. President Barack Obama is reacting today to a second deadly shooting of a black man by police in as many days. The latest shooting was in Minnesota and happened just a day after another black man was killed by police during an arrest in Louisiana. Both incidents were caught on cell phones and have been circulated widely on social media. Obama says this is not just a black issue and all Americans should be concerned. The Scripps Transnational Science Institute has won a 5-year, $120 million grant from the National Institutes of Health, which will enable it to play a key role in an unprecedented national study. It's part of President Obama's Precision Medicine Initiative. The goal is to gather the medical history and genomic information of 1 million Americans. And that is all for us tonight. Good night.